I was born in the summer of 1850, on a small cotton place not far from the Red River. Folks always told me I come into this world crying soft, like I already knew sorrow was waiting on me. Mama held me tight that first night, whispering my name like a prayer. She say the Lord send me as a little light for her tired soul. But on that place lights got dim mighty fast, and mine dimmed before I could even walk straight. My earliest memory was the sound of chains rattling when the big wagons rolled in at dawn. I remember the smell of sweat and iron, the sound of Massa calling out orders with that cold voice. I remember how the older folk kept their heads low, never looking him in the eye. I learned real young that looking a white man full on could bring a lash or worse. So I learned to watch the ground, watch the dust, watch my own breaths so it didn't shake too loud. Mama worked in the cookhouse, stirring pots big as barrels, her back bent from heat and fear. She tried to keep me close, but Messa didn't like young ones lingering round the kitchen. Said children was for the fields, or for carrying water. By the time I was 5, I was toting buckets near as heavy as me, trying not to spill a drop. If I did, the overseer would take that strap and lay it across my legs. I still feel the marks when the cold sets in. My brother Isaac was 6 years older than me, tall and quiet, with a smile that tried to hide pain. He always say, "Stay close to me, little one. I won't let nothing harm you." He was strong, strong enough to pick me up with one arm, strong enough to take a beating meant for me once. We slept on the same dirt floor, sharing the same thin blanket, listening to the same wolves cry out past the tree line. When I'd shake from fear, he'd hum soft songs Mama taught him, songs from her mama before her. Them songs felt like the only thing Massa couldn't steal from us. Life on that place was a long line of days that all looked the same. Sun came up, men and women dragged their bodies into the fields, overseers shouting and cursing. I seen grown men drop from heat, only to be kicked back up to stand straight again. I seen women cry quiet tears, hoping Massa wouldn't notice, but he always noticed. He liked to show he had power over every breath we took. When I turned 7, I got my first whip scar. The overseer said I was walking too slow behind the cotton cart. I remember the sting, the way the world went white, the way my knees gave out. Isaac scooped me up before I hit the ground, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. "Don't you break," he whispered. "Don't you let them break you." That night, Mama washed the wound with cold water, whispering prayers under her breath, tears falling in the basin. The worst part of slave life wasn't just the work or the beating. It was the way folks got taken like corn from a stalk. Random days when traders rode in, pointing fingers at mamas, daddies, little ones, young men. One by one, they got pulled away, tied up, shoved in wagons. Screams and begging never changed Massa's mind. I seen families ripped apart like cloth, and each time, a little more of our hearts tore with it. I remember the day they took old Aunt Sarah. She was like a second mama to all us children, teaching us how to tie knots, how to make dolls from rags, how to keep hope alive in small ways. When the trader grabbed her arm, she cried out for her boy, but they held him back. He kicked and clawed till the overseer threw him down. She looked at us one last time and said, "Hold on to each other." Then she was gone. We never saw her again. As I grew older, the world around me got colder. Massa grew meaner. Maybe 'cause he feared something. Maybe 'cause cruelty was the only language he knew. He watched Isaac close. My brother was strong, too strong, and Massa didn't like strong black men. Said strength made us forget our place. Sometimes he'd call Isaac out just to test him, just to remind him who held the rope. By the time I was 12, I understood what fear really meant. Fear was waking before sunrise, wondering if today might be the day someone you love got sold. Fear was hearing the overseer's horse hooves pounding the dirt behind you. Fear was seeing Mama's eyes hollow out from worry. Each day felt like we was living on borrowed time. Isaac never said it plain, but I knew he dreamed of freedom. Sometimes he'd stare past the fields toward the woods, like he could see a world where chains didn't exist. He'd grip my shoulder and say, "If I get free one day, I'm taking you with me." But dreams were dangerous on that place. Massa could smell a dream like a hound, and one day he set his eyes on Isaac in a way that made my blood run cold. That's when life changed for us. And that's when the shadow of something terrible began to fall over our little world, a shadow that would shape every breath I took after. The day I decided to run weren't a sudden thing. It was like a storm that'd been building for years, low rumbling in the belly of the sky, promising trouble. But the lightning finally struck one hot morning when the air felt thick enough to choke a man. I woke to Mama's cry, a sound I never heard from her before. It weren't fear. It weren't pain. It was a breaking sound, like something inside her had split clean in two. I rushed out the cabin and saw Massa standing by his horse with 2 traders beside him. They were staring at Isaac, measuring him up like he was a mule for sale. Isaac stood straight, jaw tight, eyes burning. I knew that look. It was the look he wore when he was holding back words that could get him killed. Mama dropped to her knees begging Massa not to take her son. She grabbed at his boots till the overseer yanked her back like she was nothing but weeds in the field. I tried to run to her, but another hand shoved me down into the dirt. Massa said Isaac was growing too proud, said he needed to be sent down river where pride got broken quick. I felt my whole chest go hollow. Isaac looked at me, not with fear, but with a kind of sorrow I didn't understand yet. He said, "Little one, don't cry. Ain't no chain hold me forever." But I could see his hands trembling, see his breath shaking. I knew he was scared of what waited downriver. Everybody was. When they tied his wrists, Mama screamed till her voice cracked. Isaac didn't fight, not yet, but when they pulled him toward the wagon, something in him snapped. He twisted free for a second and threw himself back toward us. He wanted to give Mama one last hold, but the overseer swung that rifle stock across his mouth, knocking him to the ground. Blood poured down his chin. I ran to him before they could grab me, falling to my knees beside him. He tried to smile, though half his teeth was loose. He whispered, "Look after Mama." Then they dragged him away. That night was the first time I felt true hate burn in my bones. I laid awake hearing Mama sob into her hands. Every sound outside felt like Isaac calling for help I couldn't give. By dawn, his absence was a wound none of us knew how to heal. Mama moved like she was carrying stones. She didn't hum no more, she barely spoke. She'd sit on the stoop staring at the road where they took him, rocking herself slow. A week passed, then another, and the place stayed heavy. Folks whispered that Massa wasn't finished with us. He didn't like the way Isaac fought back at the end. He didn't like how other slaves looked at it either. Said a man resisting brought dangerous thoughts. Then one afternoon, Massa rode out with 2 overseers and come back with Isaac bound behind him. My heart jumped, but when they dragged him forward, I realized he weren't standing proper. His legs barely held him. His back was torn open. His eyes were swollen near shut. I ran to him, but Massa pushed me back with his boot. He said Isaac needed to be taught a lesson in front of everybody. They forced all of us to gather by the big oak. Mama shook so bad I had to hold her up. Isaac tried to lift his head, trying to find us in the crowd. I saw his lips move like he was saying my name, but no sound came out. Massa said Isaac tried to escape downriver, said he fought 2 white men, said there had to be an example. My stomach twisted because I knew Massa had been looking for a reason. Any reason. And now he had one. When they threw that rope over the branch, my whole body went cold. I heard Mama gasp, a sound I pray no soul ever has to hear. Isaac didn't scream when they tightened the noose. He didn't beg. He just stared at the sky like he already left his body behind. I tried to run forward, but I got held back. I clawed the dirt, screaming his name, but the overseer shoved his rifle barrel in my face. Then Massa gave the signal. And my brother, my protector, the boy who carried me on his back, kicked once, twice, then went still. Mama fainted. I fell silent. The world felt like it stopped turning. After they cut him down, they left his body in the dirt like he weren't even human. I crawled to him when nobody was looking. I held his hand cold already. I wanted to die right there with him. But something sharp rose up in me, a fire stronger than fear. Isaac once told me not to let them break me, and now they broke him instead. That was the moment something inside me changed forever. I knew I couldn't stay on that place another sunrise. I knew if I stayed, Massa would crush whatever was left of my family. I knew the only thing left to do was run, even if running meant dying on the road. I looked at the woods past the field, the same woods Isaac used to stare at. I felt him whisper in my heart, "Go." So I decided. I decided with tears still falling, with my hands still on my brother's chest, that I would not die on that place. I would not be broken. I would carry Isaac's last breath with me. And I would run till my legs gave out, run till the chains fell off my soul, run toward anything that weren't Massa, weren't ropes, weren't screams. That was the night I chose freedom or death. Either one was better than staying. I left the night after they took Isaac's body away. The moon was nothing but a thin slice in the sky, barely enough light to guide a soul. Mama begged me not to go. She held my face in her hands, her palms rough from work and grief. She whispered that she already lost one child and couldn't bear losing another. But I told her I weren't leaving to die. I was leaving to keep Isaac's spirit alive. She pressed a small rag of cornbread in my hand, kissed my forehead, and told me to run quiet and fast. I hugged her like I'd never let go, but I had to loosen my arms and slip into the dark before her sobbing brought the overseer. I moved through the fields bent low, my heart banging in my chest like it wanted to leap out. Every rustle made me freeze. Every hoot of an owl felt like a warning. The air smelled of dirt and old cotton and fear. I kept thinking about how Isaac used to talk about the woods, saying that beyond them trees was a path to breath and free air. So I headed toward that line of shadows, praying my feet wouldn't betray me. Once I reached the woods, I felt the night swallow me whole. Branches clawed at my shirt. Roots rose like snakes under my steps. I didn't know which way to go, only that I had to go north. I remembered hearing talk about moss hanging thicker on the north side of trees, so I kept touching trunks, feeling for the right side. Sometimes I'd walk in circles for an hour before realizing it, but I kept moving 'cause stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering how my brother's body swung from that oak. The first day hiding in them woods was the hardest. When the sun rose, the heat pressed down on me like a heavy hand. I stayed low in the brush, chewing the last crumbs of Mama's cornbread. My mouth was so dry it felt like I was chewing sand. I saw riders passing close by, overseers with dogs sniffing the ground. I held my breath till my chest burned. Twice they got so near I could smell the sweat on the hounds. But the wind must have been on my side, 'cause the dogs lost my trail and barked off in another direction. By the second night, hunger hit me like a fist. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I might pass out. I found some berries, dark and sweet, and hoped they weren't the kind that killed folks. I ate slow, listening to the woods talk around me. Crickets, frogs, far-off wolves. It all sounded like a song Isaac used to hum when he thought nobody was listening. I curled up under a fallen tree, clutching the memory of his voice like it was a blanket. I walked for days. Maybe 4, maybe 5. Time didn't mean much. My feet blistered, then tore open, leaving a trail of blood behind me. Each night I'd hear twigs crack in the dark and wonder if Massa's men were tracking me. Sometimes I'd dream with my eyes open, seeing Isaac walk beside me, telling me to keep going, telling me the pain weren't bigger than freedom. I followed rivers when I found them, drinking till my belly sloshed, then moving on with water dripping from my chin. On the 5th night, something happened that near stopped my heart for good. I came to a small clearing where the moonlight shone bright. Right in the middle was a tall tree, branches stretching wide, and hanging from one of them branches was a shape, still and heavy. For a second I thought my mind was tricking me, but when I stepped closer, my knees buckled. It was a man tied up same way they tied Isaac, clothes torn, head dropped, ropes swinging slow. I thought it was him. I thought somehow Massa brought his body out here to haunt me. I crawled forward, crying without sound, reaching for the man's foot. But when I touched it, I knew it weren't Isaac. This man was older, his skin weathered, his back marked by whip scars. Still, seeing him hanging there ripped open the wound inside me all over again. I looked up at the rope, the branch, the awful stillness, and I felt the world tilt. But then I saw something else. Footprints, fresh ones, and beside them dog tracks. Massa wasn't just punishing Isaac. He was hunting runaways for sport, and that man hanging there was his warning. A cold anger settled in my bones so deep it made me stand straighter. I whispered to the dead man that I'd live for the both of us. Then I wiped my eyes and forced myself back into the trees. That was the twist I never wanted to see. They didn't just hang my brother in front of me. They hung others too, and if they caught me, I'd join that line of souls swinging silent in the night. The next day, near dawn, I stumbled onto a small cabin by the river. Smoke curled from the chimney. My breath caught in my throat. Could be danger, could be salvation. I hid in the bushes till an old black man stepped out, leaning on a cane. He looked around slow, like he could feel me watching him. Then he said, "Soft, chill. If you runnin', you best come now. Sun risen soon." I didn't know how he knew. Maybe he saw the fear in my eyes. Maybe he had been in my shoes once. Either way, I crept out. He brought me inside, fed me a bowl of warm mush, and told me he was part of a chain of folks helping runaways north. He said he'd get me across the river by nightfall, then hand me to another who'd take me farther. I wanted to fall down and cry from relief, but I just nodded, holding the bowl tight. He touched my shoulder and said, "Your brother walking with you. Keep your head up." That was the first time since Isaac died that I felt a small spark of strength. I followed that old man's plan, following the river, following the darkness, following the hope that freedom was more than just a word whispered in the night, and with every step I told myself I weren't running away. I was running towards something bigger than fear. Crossing that river felt like stepping into another world. The current was cold and fast, splashing up to my chin, while the old man guided the small boat quiet as a whisper. I held the sides tight, afraid the water would pull me under, afraid the men hunting me were just a breath behind. But the farther we moved, the calmer I felt. I looked back once and saw the moon laying its glow across the water like a path being erased behind me. The old man said, "Don't look back, Chill. What's gone is gone." So I turned my face toward the dark shore ahead. When we reached the other side, he helped me climb out onto the mud. My legs shook so hard I near fell. He handed me off to a woman waiting under a pine tree, her face tired but kind. She wrapped a blanket round my shoulders and said she'd walk with me a while, that while turned into miles, she led me by lantern light through swamp and brush, warning me where to step and where to hold my breath. She didn't say much, just kept squeezing my arm every so often, reminding me I weren't alone. At sunrise, she left me with a man driving a wagon full of hay. He hid me under the straw, telling me not to sneeze, cough, or move unless he tapped twice. I lay there in the dark, breathing in dust, listening to his boots thump as he walked beside the horses. Twice I heard riders stop him, asking questions. My heart near broke out my ribs, but the man kept his voice even, talking slow, saying he was just haul and feed north. When the wagon rolled again, he tapped the wood once, letting me know danger past. Days blurred into each other like smudged ink. I stayed in barns, sheds, cellars. I ate whatever scraps folks could spare, cold beans, stale bread, a little dried meat. Every person who helped me risked their life. Some prayed over me, some cried, some told me they once knew someone like me, someone who didn't make it. I carried those stories the way I carried Isaac's memory. Heavy but keeping me moving. After near 3 weeks of travel, I reached a place folks called a station, though it weren't no station like white folks knew. It was a small farmhouse run by a quiet couple with stern eyes but warm hands. They let me rest a whole day, brought me clean clothes, washed my wounds, and fed me more food than I'd had in months. They told me the next leg would take me to the border of the north, where the law didn't run the same and where I could breathe easier. I asked them if freedom felt real there. The woman just smiled soft and said, "Freedom start inside first." The last man who helped me was tall, with silver hair braided down his back. He walked fast, like he wasn't afraid of nothing. He said he'd been carrying runaways for 20 years and planned to keep going till he died. He led me through thick forest, pointing out stars, showing me where north truly was. Some nights we slept sitting up, too close to danger to lie down. Other nights we marched till my legs gave out, and he'd pull me back to my feet, saying, "Strength ain't in your body, boy. It's in your will." Finally, one cold dawn, he stopped at the edge of a wide river. The water was calm, mist hanging low like breath in clouds. On the far side was land folks whispered about, land where I couldn't be claimed, chased, owned, or sold. The old man clasped my shoulder and said, "Once your feet touch that ground, you ain't a slave no more." We crossed in a small rowboat, the oars cutting through the still water like knives through cloth. With every stroke, my chest felt lighter. When the boat scraped against the opposite bank, I stared at the soil beneath me. My hands shook when I touched it. It felt no different than the dirt I was born on, but my spirit felt changed. The old man said, "Go on, stand up on it." So I did. And for the first time in my life, I breathed a breath that didn't belong to Massa. I made my way north over the next months, taking small jobs wherever I could, chopping wood, cleaning stables, carrying sacks at the docks. Folks paid me coins, and every coin felt like a piece of my soul being returned. By the time I reached Canada, winter was settling in. The cold cut through me, but it was a clean cold, not like the burn of fear I lived with before. I settled in a small black town where other runaways lived. They welcomed me like kin. I got work at a mill, learned to read slowly, learned to write Isaac's name on scraps of paper. Some nights I would sit by the fire, imagining him sitting beside me, smiling that shy smile he had. I carried him with me into every sunrise. I still do. Years passed, and I grew older than old. My hair turned grey, my hands stiff, but each morning I woke up free. I lived to see Mama again too, when she was brought north by good folk long after the war ended. We held each other and cried like children. She said she knew I lived because she felt my spirit tugging at hers across the miles. Now I sit here telling my tale so no one forgets what chains can do, and what courage can undo. I ain't bitter no more, though sorrow still walks beside me. I think of Isaac every night. I think of that oak tree, and how his last breath pushed me into the world of the living. If you listen close, maybe you can hear his voice too, whispering strength into your bones. If I could do it with no shoes and half my toes gone, you can do anything you set your mind to. Never give up on freedom.